Greetings everyone, Fru here. Welcome to the demo. Today I will be answering a user comment that came on the channel very recently on a demo we did around Gog CLI, integrating Gog with your OpenClaw. But Gog is more than OpenClaw. It allows you to integrate into the Google ecosystem with or without OpenClaw, and that's what we're going to see here in the demo. So the question reads, I need to configure all my teammates to set the meeting schedule to the calendar. Is it possible to use multiple Gmail access? If yes, please share the steps. So I think this user has multiple Gmails. They want to set up some automation using the Gog CLI. And the question is that possible? Because in my previous demo on OpenClaw, I did it with a single Gmail account. And I'm glad to share that the answer to this is yes. And I did the test with this. So I'll go through what I've done and then do a quick demo of it. But essentially what you're going to do is, if you don't have the Gog CLI installed, you're going to do brew install Gog CLI, or you can ask Claude to do this for you, or your favorite AI tool to do this for you. And then once you go through, you're going to want to go through, and I think I'm assuming that this step is already done. You've done this for one account and you're just trying to do this for multiple accounts. So I have two Gmail accounts to test this particular scenario. So in this case, you're going to want to set up that OAuth on one account, download this client secret, and then you can authenticate into your different accounts, and you allow you to go through the OAuth screen to authenticate into the different accounts. And then based on that, you can now do the functions using Gog. So this works. If you copy and paste these commands and it doesn't work, I also tried another approach, and I'll come back to this one, which is you will have two separate accounts, go into the Google console for those two separate accounts, and then download two separate credentials and authenticate with those two separate credentials. It was a little bit convoluted. It works, but I think most people are not looking to go this route. I think most people might be looking to go this route. So I really can't determine what the need is. It seems to me like both will work. And the reason why this one as opposed to this, so this option of just one credential authenticating to two separate accounts work is, imagine you're building an app where you have 10 users and you want to have Gog that reads your 10 Gmail accounts and sends you a summary of that. Going this approach I think it works, but I could see why it would be too much friction. So that said, I'll go through what I did to get this set up, and then I'll just show a quick demo to prove that it actually worked for me using these two Gmail accounts I have. So let's go back over here. What you're going to want to do for this is in your Google Cloud Console, once you've set up the app, so let's assume that you're working with one account. Let me pick this account. So I'm working from the Dev3 account, which is the main account for this channel. What you're going to do once you set that up would be to go to Verification Center, click on that, and then view audience. Now go down to audience, and this is the only thing I needed to do for this to actually work for me. Add a test user, and in this case, I already had the Fruit Dev user. I just added this as a test user. Now, if the app is going to be an external app, I think it's a little bit of a different process where you have to go through verification. But I'm assuming that if you're watching this video, you are way advanced than what I'm showing here. And if this makes sense to you, then I'm guessing that you're the audience that really will benefit from this. So my case is just an app. It's a testing app, so I'm not publishing it, because if you have to publish the app, you'll go through verification, and there's just a lot of things. So if you're just doing your own personal automation like I'm doing, this is enough. Just add test user, and then add this accounts that need to be part of the test user. And what this allows you to do is, once you log in and the OAuth screen comes in, it will check if this user is a test user for your app, and then that's essentially what it needs. Now, assuming that you have this, I think that's about it. You just go over, let me go back here. You go back over to Gog, and this is the command I ran, and I won't run this here. Just simply run this, and then once you do the Gog auth, add this user for this very first command, takes you to the screen, you authenticate, and then it will trigger for this, takes you to the screen, you authenticate for that because these users are both there, and you should be fine with that. At least that was what allowed me to be fine. And then you can now start doing some actions by testing that. So let me go over to my CLI to actually test this. So I'm using CMOX here. If you're not familiar with what this is, I have a demo around this. I just think it's an amazing tool to use for working with the terminals or the agentic terminal user interfaces. So in this case, I have Claude. I could come into Claude. I would launch Claude here real quick, and let me clear this. Go into Claude. For some reason, my Claude had a hiccup there. Let's try this again. All right, we are in Claude. Now, what we can do now that we have the setup I showed would be to do something like use Gog to, and I don't want it to show my sensitive data, but to check this different email addresses that I have and to give me a summary of it, just a generic summary. And that's what this prompt will do. And so for that user that had the question, can I use one Gog to essentially search, interact with multiple different Google accounts? This is showing us that that is possible. That is possible for you to do. So it's gonna take a few seconds here to go through. So still thinking through this, taking the auth credentials, looking for both accounts, finding what it needs. Let's just do a yes on this. And I have had to click yes a couple of times just to accept what I was thinking. And so now it says I'll write the daily briefing script that handles for both Gmails. And now this is prompting us to authenticate. So I'm guessing the very first time I will do the through def. I'll click continue. If everything is set up, I'm giving access to this particular Gmail. Based on your security, you can close the window, and that is done. And now we're going to go into the through tag channel, continue, and select all and continue. And then we can close on that. So it says authenticating both accounts, 30 messages has been found. Through tech needs a GB API enabled for the cloud project. Let me fix that. So just doing some cloud stuff, some cloud code. And after that, everything ran without me intervening. So it does say through def, there are 30 messages. It's been able to read and categorize that, summarizing that for me with a brief. And then that brief was saved. And I think it's doing this saving here because I have, I do have a skill for how I want emails to be backed up and processed. And then for some reason, it's saying that this fruit tech has a block, a one-time block, and we can go into the Google console to resolve. And I'll show you how to get this resolved because I think this is now taking the path of the two separate authentications. So let me go over to Google console and show us how this is resolved. So now we are back in the Google console. And in this case, I'm going with the two different approach. So I am in the fruit tech. So this is the one that had the issue. Coming to enable API and services. I think the issue we had was around Gmail. And this is Google. Google, I just wish that the APIs will be, or the UI will be straightforward. So click on Gmail API and just enable that piece because enabling that, we already had the credentials downloaded, and I'll show this one more time. We had this app. This is the app I'm referring to. If we go to verification center for this one app, this is the route that uses two separate apps, not the one that uses the test account. I have this in the particular test account. So both approaches work, and I've seen both of them work. Now with that API verified, now let's go back over. Let's try one more time. The the API for through tech has been now verified. Can you rerun this for both accounts again? Make sure you do not share any sensitive data. Only share a summary of what is in the inbox, avoiding any sensitive details you might find. All right. So we have put in the prompts. This should rerun back again. So it's come back and said both accounts run successfully. And then these are 30 emails or messages from the Fru dev and 30 messages from Fru tech. But I want this to be a little bit more specific. Can you write an executive summary and show me on the screen here for each of those inboxes, the top messages you found with action items? I want it here, not sent somewhere else. Show them for each of the different email addresses. All right. I know I'm being a little bit specific here, but I really want this to come back, because most people who do this probably have separate email accounts for different reasons. And I think this is a very, very valid use case to consider. Now, while this is processing, the question might be, why would I do this? Why would I chat in this interface right here? I'm using CMOX as opposed to uh, um, OpenClaw. Well, OpenClaw obviously works. But if you are not comfortable with OpenClaw and you want a different approach, this is where you can now have your own personal automation that looks at your emails and still sends you a summary if you want, without necessarily going through the concerns that OpenClaw might present. So there is valid reason for why someone might want to go through this route of using the Gog CLI to interact with their emails as opposed to OpenClaw. So here we have this. There is some collaboration in there, and then for the Fruit Tech, there are some security alerts and some other notifications coming my way, and this proves that it works. One more thing to check here. Are you able to create a calendar reminder for today on the Fru Dev calendar? Just create a reminder for today right now on the calendar. And I want to see if this will understand the Fru Dev account, and hopefully it will write the script using the Gog CLI to create that for us. So Gog is a very, very powerful automation piece. And again, while this is processing, there's always the question of, oh, no calendar FTP available. All right. It should know that I wanted to use Gog. So sometimes you have to this stuff is not as smart as you would expect. I have to explicitly tell it to use Gog. But it is what it is. Let's go on that. Let's close this. Authenticate. And you really don't have to do this all the time. I'm sure this will get frustrating pretty quickly if you have to go through this screen authorization all the time. So this is actualizing, and with any hope, we should see a calendar invite. And the scenario I'm thinking about is you could have a scenario where you read your emails, summarize them, see the things that are important, and directly go to your calendar and then put in calendar reminders there for yourself. And this is, I think, a very good use case that I might actually do it myself. So it says created on your calendar, executive for March 4th, which is today. Let's go over. Do we have a calendar here? And voila, there you go, an executive briefing that is on the calendar, just created from our automation as we speak. So again, you can have an automation here that looks at your email, understands that, creates calendar, creates things in your Google Docs. The sky is the limit in terms of what's possible with this. So hopefully this gives you an idea just to recap, we've used the Gog CLI, Google, in your terminal. And I think Gog stands for GOG, for Google on Go. I believe that's what it stands for. And it brings the Google ecosystem to your terminal for automation. And hopefully this was helpful. Again, just to recap here, the setup is possible. A single account is pretty straightforward, in my opinion. Multi-account is also very possible, and you can do that. So hopefully this answers the user question on, can you do this setup? And I just thought I'll respond to that and showcase that to you. If this was helpful, give it a thumbs up. Share this with somebody that will find it helpful. And because this is Gog, if I was doing this on my Mac Mini, I will just essentially tell OpenClaw to use Gog, and then OpenClaw would have access to all those accounts. So I know this is not a specific OpenClaw demo, but it would tie into OpenClaw setup if that's what you were using OpenClaw for your email automation and management. So hopefully, again, this was helpful. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next demo.